is Grandmaster Florentino Paz. Thank you for joining us, Grandmaster.
Thank you.
Now, Grandmaster Paz is a 9th degree black belt in the Gaylord branch of Kajukenbo. He's also out in Idaho. And Grandmaster, if it's okay, can you tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and how you ended up in Idaho?
I was born in Edinburgh, Texas. That's where we originally come from. And we were coming back and forth as migrants to work in Idaho. And back and forth. So we moved to Nampa, Idaho, doing sprinkler lines. And that's where I started my martial arts training.
Okay, and what did you start in at the time?
I started karate do with an exchange students from Japan.
Okay.
His name was Yoshi.
Uh-huh. Great. And now you've been in the martial arts about 42 years, is that right?
I've been longer than that. I was 15 when I started.
Wow, okay. Quite some time then.
Yeah.
So how did you find Grandmaster Gaylord? When was that and what happened?
I'll fill you my story from Yoshi. He got called back to Japan. They only come back and forth, to it for learning the job. And from there, he closed it down. So we moved to Caldwell. And there I met Hubert McGinnis, which he was a Shotokan under Oshima from California.
Uh-huh.
And I stayed there probably about 4 years. Then he closed his school down. So I went under Steve Pierce under the branch of Kajukenbo from Hawaii under Anthony Amahua. And we had some problems there with my instructor, which he was doing some black stuff, which was magic. And we didn't agree with that, so we moved out of there. And then I had a visit from Sifu Lopez from Portland, Oregon, which I owe him everything coming into the family of the Kajukenbo system. Mm-hmm. And he's the one that originally got me started. He came over to visit me because he heard about Kajukenbo and he thought it was Kajukenbo. So when he came and visited me in the school, he said, "Wait a minute, this is not Kajukenbo. This is something else." I said, "Yes, we're soft and hard." And that's how I got originally started with the Kajukenbo system, which Sid Lopez was under Gabriel Vargas, a professor at that time. We had some problems that he had to close his school down. Originally, I also had 2 other instructors, which was his students. Alex Arias helped me a lot, and also Grandmaster Tim Gagnard, if I pronounced it right. He's been a tremendous big help and still is one of my brothers. He's always been around with us. And then we had some problems. I lost contact with everybody. And one of my students moved to Texas in 1993 and met the Grandmaster Gaylord. Mm-hmm. And he said, we're having trouble over there. We don't have an instructor and so on. So he said, "You know what? You tell your instructor to give me a call now."
That's what Grandmaster Gaylord said.
That was Grandmaster Gaylord. And so David called me and I said, "How can I call him if he's the main guy? I mean, I can't go, jump brands." And he said, "Well, he wants you to call him now." Okay. So I called him and I gave him my story and everything. And he says, "You know what? If you don't want to move up, you give me your students. You can rot in the same hole you're at, pay in respect to your instructor who's not around, and I'll carry on your students." And I go, "Oh my God," but he started yelling, so I had to pull my phone away from my head because he was yelling and cussing. I go, "Oh my God." I almost said, okay. So that's how I met him. So at that year in 83, I brought him down here, and it's been really great being into the Kajukenbo family under his guidance, full of wisdom, respect, ain't afraid of nobody. I mean, we would go to the restaurants and he would say, "What? Are you still haven't killed the beef to bring me my hamburger or what?" He was honoring. He wasn't afraid. He was just straightforward. Beautiful person.
That's great. So now, you met him in that way. How would you describe him at that time? If someone asked you, what was he like? You mentioned a little bit about him being straightforward. Can you tell us more? What kind of person was he?
He was hard,
Yeah.
taught hard, and mellow when he was with you. Set you down and give you his knowledge of wisdom.
Hmm.
Tell you how to respect people. Keep your mouth shut, listen, and don't talk until you know what you're gonna say.
Hmm.
So he says, you're stubborn, so you gotta watch what you say. Listen first before you open your mouth.
That's wise. That's wisdom.
Yes.
So how did were there a lot of martial artists out in the Idaho area when you moved there?
There's a lot of martial arts. There's mainly Taekwondo, Kempo. Kempo was the biggest ones.
Hmm.
Second was Taekwondo.
Hmm.
Then there was freestyles.
Hmm.
And I was the only one from the Kajukenbo system, originally from Idaho, and nobody else was around. So I was kind of like a stray out here in the nobody's land until I had Great Grandmaster Gaylord.
Uh-huh.
He put us in the spot. When he came over, he would tell everybody, you know, this is Tino, one of my students. I'm gonna promote him to so-so, and if anybody got any problems and disagree, I'm right here. Come to me right now, and we'll discuss it now.
Wow.
This is on, and that's what I'm gonna do.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So he really brought it to everybody else too. His straightforward, honest approach, talking to everybody.
Right. He gave us the power what we needed and everything. I mean, Steve Lopez gave us a lot of support also at that time. But you know, he's gone, and that's the reason I moved on to Great Grandmaster Gaylord.
Mm-hmm. Did you find a big difference in the styles from Grandmaster Gaylord and Lopez?
Very much different, a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm.
The opinions were different. If you look at them, they're kind of like the same,
Mm-hmm.
but still there was a little different in it, adding up a few more moves than Great Grandmaster Gaylord or vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
included with like the Sijo Emperor Auto side. I mean, you see the opinions of other Kajukenbos and all, you know, they're different.
Yes.
You know, so I mean, so which one is right? As long as I'm in the Kajukenbo system, I'm in the family.
Yeah, that's true. I've seen a lot of different ones.
Right.
It's really interesting to see. Sometimes only one move difference, and sometimes it's like a completely different form. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, how about yourself? Were you more of a forms guy or a fighter, like sparring kind of guy?
At the beginning, I was more of a fighter, but then I hurt my knee, and I never did. And at the time that we were fighting, like Grandmaster Wolf mentioned, you only put tape around your knuckles. There was no safety gear or nothing. You know, not even growing cups. But at that time, it was only like our own system, like the Chorakan with the other Chorakan schools. That was the only tournaments that was around, because there was nobody was hosting tournaments at that time.
Mm-hmm.
I was the first one to open up tournaments here in the state of Idaho.
And how did that go?
Great. I'm on my 67. I couldn't put this one on November because of the virus.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So it's great. It's been great.
How do the other schools in Idaho seem to feel about Kajukenbo and Gaylord's branch Kajukenbo?
They hated us.
Oh yeah.
They call us ball kickers. When we go to tournaments, they hated us.
Were the groin shots allowed then at the Shotokan tournament?
Oh yes,
they were allowed. Then
we're always growing. Yes.
Oh,
in the tournaments, there are growing shots allowed.
No, I think the groin shot is. I want to say it's a hallmark of Kajukenbo. Like you just mentioned, that's one of the first things we do. You know, go for the weak spot.
Yes.
Did Gaylord ever mention much about those types of techniques? I mean, those dirty tricks. Did he ever talk about those?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Very much. Yes, he did. And he taught us. And boy, and the bad thing about it that when you ask him about it, you better hang on to the floor because he's gonna smack you.
You asked him about it.
It was so hard. I mean, I had one of my students at Grandmaster Case told him, "Hey, you hit me with your ring. I don't give a shit if I hit you with my ring. I'm gonna hit you, and I can hit you as many times as I want." Start banging on him. Things like that happen a lot with us, but it was fun. I mean, the bruises were honored.
That
You know,
really,
I trained on my Shotokan and Karate Do with Yoshi. It was very hard training, so I was used to the hard training when
mhm,
we ran into a great grandmaster Gaylord.
mhm.
You know, it was hard, and then he start teaching us a soft style. He's always put the dragon and the tiger together, combined.
Mhm.
Be hard when you need it, soft when you need it. Not always hard, not always soft.
Mhm. Were the other Kajukenbo branches touching on the hard and soft mixing together as often as Grandmaster Gaylord did?
No,
Okay, so that was kind of
no.
his thing.
But I've seen no. Mostly there were more, say about 90% hard style.
Uh-huh.
You know, and the only soft ones were either Tumpai or Win Up and Go from the Costco's.
Okay. All right, interesting. Now, what would you say was the biggest impact Grandmaster Gaylord had on the world of martial arts and Kajukenbo as a whole?
He the biggest impact on that, he was more creative.
Mhm.
He would create. He wasn't only into one deal. He opened up to everything. Whatever he saw, he'll improve it, kept it himself, and taught it to the students.
Mhm.
Like on the pressure points is one of them.
Uh-huh.
We went we went down to his hotel. My wife Amalia asked him, "Hey, can you show me some pressure points up but on him, which are me?" Well, he did. He did 3 pokes on each side. It was 6. I couldn't even move my head, my neck. I couldn't even speak. I was lucky that Grandmaster Don Bono was there. Since he's a chiropractor, he kind of, I go, so he started fixing me until finally I said, okay, I'm done. So I told my wife, I said, shut up, don't ask him no more. But with those pressure points that he hit, he would numb you.
That's funny because I think it's one thing when you ask Grandmaster Gaylord about his ring or the groin shots. It's another when your wife is asking him to practice on you.
Yeah,
That doesn't sound fair.
it is. Well, he wanted me to get beat up. That's
So the pressure points. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that? 'Cause I know there are a lot of pressure point frauds out there. A lot of people mention Dillman and all that. Uh, how much did Grandmaster Gaylord get into the pressure point? And as you said yourself, it worked on you.
yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about how far he went with pressure points?
Okay, he told me that he was studying under one guy which was under with George Stillman,
Hmm.
and then he went with somebody else, was the Chinese guy. I don't recall his name, and he did with us when he was here with us. He did quite a bit of the pressure points,
Hmm.
but mainly he was working out with me and Grandmaster Case on the pressure points,
Hmm.
and seeing what George Stillman does because I steady him. They always grab
Hmm.
to do their pressure points, or they tell you what they're gonna do and everything. It's well, I don't know if it's a fake. I hope I don't know. But what I did, uh, when you're throwing a punch, automatically you go into the pressure points, striking the pressure points to wound your prey,
Hmm.
which is kind of like a dove. If you want a dove, you're gonna win him. We hit him on the wind, so you can keep him. Same thing with us. You know, you gotta hit the pressure points on the arm to
Hmm.
slow him down.
Hmm.
But
So it's
he did a lot of pressure points with us.
so it's less about like a demonstration. I'm going to do this and this to you. It's just
Yes,
surprise and catch him off guard with it.
right.
Mhm. Excellent. So we're almost finished. Are there any other stories you'd like to mention before we wrap the show up?
Uh, the thing that I hate, uh, you know how I was stubborn and with hot temper,
Hmm.
but see, I was always pushed around even through the martial arts, even when I was growing up.
Hmm.
Uh, my different way of fighting was more of a Texan style, kind of like the Chicanos, how they fight, you know, kick, run, and everything.
Hmm.
When I joined the martial arts, it was totally different.
Hmm.
So I, he called my wife and says, Amalia, come here. He says, I want you to keep an eye on him. He's hot-headed. I want you to step in when he start talking. I want him to listen before he speaks, and you better step in and say, look, this is what you say. And I go, sir, I said, no, 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 you shut up. Wait a minute. You, he bothers you, you call me, and I'll talk to him. And I go, oh my God. So my wife still does that, interferes with me when I'm headache. And I go, hey, wait a minute, you don't say that. Settle down. I says, what did he done?
That sounds like a legacy he left for you.
Yes, he did. And another thing is, before he passed away, I was out checking fields.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I felt something weird above me. Mm-hmm. And I looked up, and he goes, I just came to say goodbye. And that was his voice. When that voice left, Frank called me. And he says, Tino, we lost him.
Oh, man.
And both of us started crying like a baby, I mean.
Yeah. He
was our father. He gave us everything, he was never for money. He was out there to make sure that his people that always had enough money so they can support themselves. Mm-hmm. And you didn't have to pay him. He didn't ask you for money. Mm-hmm. He would come and he would pay his own way to come over here and taught his style. Wow. That's how good of a man he was.
So to finish up for today, if you could say anything to Grandmaster Gaylord now, if he were to come down and you had the chance to give him a message, what would you want to tell him?
Why did you leave us so soon?
Fair enough.
Too soon. He was full of knowledge. Excellent. And he left with a lot of knowledge.
And we're all going to miss him too. We all do.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, Grandmaster. And those of you at home, thank you for tuning in. This has been the KAA Kajukenbo Deep Dive. Stay tuned for our next episode. Until then, stay strong, stay Kajukenbo strong. Mahalo.
Aloha. Take care.